Welcome to Whispers and Confessions. There might be a twist waiting, so please make sure to watch until the end. Don't forget to subscribe and like. Let's begin right away.
Oh my, it seems they've really gotten started up there. The intensity is palpable, Melissa purred, her voice a sultry whisper as she pressed her voluptuous chest against my back. The warmth of her body sent a shiver down my spine, igniting a spark of desire I hadn't felt in years. I'm Sean, 37 years old, and I've made a name for myself in the world of luxury car dealing. My passion for automobiles isn't just a career choice. It's a legacy passed down from my father. Growing up, I was surrounded by the sleek lines and purring engines of high-end vehicles, each one a work of art in its own right. This childhood fascination led me to pursue a career in the automotive industry, specifically in the realm of luxury imports. After completing my business degree, I landed a position at an exclusive import car dealership. It was there that I truly honed my skills, applying my meticulous nature and eye for detail to every aspect of the job. My colleagues often joked that I could recite the specs of every car on the lot in my sleep. This dedication didn't go unnoticed, and soon I found myself climbing the ranks, eventually earning the title of top salesman. However, success came with its own set of golden handcuffs. The dealership's rigid structure and limited inventory began to feel suffocating. I yearned for the freedom to curate my own collection, to work with the cars that truly spoke to me. It was this desire that pushed me to take the leap into independence, starting my own luxury car brokerage. The transition wasn't without its challenges. There were sleepless nights filled with doubt and financial spreadsheets that seemed to mock my ambitions. But through it all, I had a secret weapon: my wife, Alicia. We met during our early days at the dealership, where she worked as an office manager. Her organizational skills complemented my sales acumen perfectly, and soon our professional partnership blossomed into romance. Now, she's not just my life partner, but also the backbone of our business, managing the books with the same precision she applies to every aspect of her life. But even the most polished exteriors can hide wear and tear underneath. As the years rolled by, the excitement of our early days together began to fade. The passionate embraces and stolen glances across the showroom floor gave way to mundane discussions about grocery lists and business taxes. Our relationship, once a high-performance engine of love and desire, now sputtered along like an old jalopy. The intimacy that once came so naturally now felt forced, if it happened at all. We'd fallen into the trap that claims so many long-term couples: complacency. It was on a particularly monotonous Tuesday that fate decided to throw a wrench into our well-oiled routine. My phone lit up with a call from Jake, my go-to mechanic at the auto repair shop I frequently collaborated with. Jake wasn't one for small talk, so I knew this call meant business. As I answered, his gruff voice came through, tinged with an excitement I hadn't heard from him in years. "Sean, you're not going to believe this. That unicorn you've been chasing? It's up for auction. The 1967 Lamborghini Miura P400, in pristine condition. Original paint job, engine purrs like a kitten. It's the real deal." My heart raced as I processed the information. This wasn't just any car. This was the holy grail of classic sports cars. But as quickly as the excitement came, reality set in. I wasn't in the market for such an extravagant purchase, especially not with the business still finding its footing. No, this call wasn't for me. It was for Matthew. Matthew isn't just a client. He's become something of a mentor and older brother figure in my life. At 51, he exudes the kind of confidence that comes from years of success in the cutthroat world of management consulting. Where I am cautious and methodical, Matthew is bold and instinctive. He has a knack for reading people and situations that borders on the supernatural, a skill that's served him well both in business and in his personal life. I've known Matthew since my dealership days, and our relationship has only grown stronger since I went independent. He was one of my first clients, and his trust in my abilities gave me the confidence boost I needed in those early, uncertain days. Matthew's not just financially successful. He's achieved that rare balance of wealth and genuine happiness. His passion for luxury cars isn't about showing off. It's about appreciating the artistry and engineering that goes into each vehicle. His collection is ever-changing, a revolving door of automotive masterpieces that never fails to impress. But it's not just Matthew's business acumen or car collection that draws people to him. There's an undeniable charisma about him, a magnetic pull that's hard to resist. He carries himself with the easy grace of a man comfortable in his own skin, whether he's closing a multi-million-dollar deal or sharing a beer at a local pub. His wardrobe is a carefully curated selection of bespoke suits that highlight his athletic build, each one probably worth more than my monthly rent. But it's the way he wears them, with a casual confidence that makes even the most expensive outfit seem effortless, that truly captures attention. And then there's his wife, Melissa. If Matthew is the epitome of masculine charm, Melissa is his perfect counterpart. About a year younger than me, she possesses a beauty that's both classic and strikingly modern. Her smile is disarming, reminiscent of the pop idols that grace magazine covers. But there's an intelligence behind her eyes that tells you she's far more than just a pretty face. Melissa's figure is a work of art in its own right, all curves and soft edges, a stark contrast to my wife Alicia's willowy frame. I'd be lying if I said I hadn't found my gaze lingering on Melissa longer than strictly appropriate at social gatherings. With the news of the Lamborghini still ringing in my ears, I wasted no time in calling Matthew. As the phone rang, I could already picture his reaction. Even before he picked up, I knew this was going to be more than just a business call. This car wasn't just a potential addition to his collection. It was a dream come true. When Matthew's voice came through, usually so controlled and measured, there was an underlying current of excitement that I'd never heard before. Secure it, Sean. Whatever it takes. This isn't just a car. It's a piece of history. The urgency in his voice was palpable, and I knew that this acquisition was going to be a game changer. Not just for Matthew's collection, but potentially for my business as well. Little did I know, it would also be the catalyst for a series of events that would challenge everything I thought I knew about my marriage, my desires, and myself. The day of the auction arrived, and I felt a surge of adrenaline coursing through my veins. As I stepped into the auction house, the air was thick with anticipation. The 1967 Lamborghini Miura P400 we were after wasn't just any car. It was the crown jewel of the event. Collectors and enthusiasts from all corners of the world had gathered, their eyes gleaming with desire for this automotive masterpiece. When the Miura finally rolled onto the stage, the room erupted in a collective gasp. The car's sleek lines and vibrant Miura green paint job seemed to glow under the spotlights. I found myself drawn to it, along with a throng of potential bidders. As I ran my hand along its smooth curves, I could feel the history pulsing beneath my fingertips. This was the moment to put all my years of experience to the test. The bidding began, and the atmosphere crackled with tension. The price climbed rapidly, each bid eliciting murmurs from the crowd. As the numbers soared past Matthew's initial budget, I felt a bead of sweat trickle down my back. One by one, bidders dropped out, until only two of us remained. Myself and a stern-faced man in an impeccably tailored suit. Our eyes locked in silent challenge as we volleyed bids back and forth. When the price hit Matthew's limit, I hesitated for a split second. In that moment of uncertainty, I saw a flicker of triumph in my opponent's eyes. With trembling fingers, I dialed Matthew's number. "Matthew, we're at the limit," I whispered urgently. "The other guy's not backing down. What should I do?" There was a pause on the other end, and I could almost hear the gears turning in Matthew's head. Then, his voice came through, clear and decisive. "Go for it, Sean. Whatever it takes. This car is priceless." Emboldened by Matthew's faith, I raised my paddle once more. The room fell silent, all eyes darting between me and my opponent. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. Then, the auctioneer's gavel came down with a resounding crack. Sold. A wave of relief washed over me, mingled with exhilaration. I'd done it. The Miura was ours. In the days that followed, I meticulously planned every detail of the car's transport. I chose a route that avoided major highways, opting instead for scenic backroads that I believed would be safer. Little did I know that this decision would lead to an unforeseen complication. As the transport truck wound its way through a particularly narrow mountain pass, disaster struck. A deer darted across the road, causing the driver to swerve. While he managed to avoid a major collision, the sudden movement sent the Miura sliding in its restraints. My heart sank when I received the call detailing the damage, a series of scratches along the passenger side and a dented fender. With a heavy heart, I made my way to Matthew's office. As I explained the situation, I braced myself for his anger. To my surprise, Matthew's response was one of calm understanding. He placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder, his eyes kind. "Sean, accidents happen. The car can be restored. What matters is that no one was hurt." His words should have comforted me, but I couldn't shake the weight of disappointment. "You don't understand, Matthew," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "This isn't just any car. It's the same model my father used to drive when I was a kid. It's the reason I fell in love with cars in the first place. Seeing it damaged, it feels like I've let down more than just you." Matthew's expression softened, a look of understanding crossing his face. He was quiet for a moment, as if considering something. Then, he changed the subject abruptly. "Tell me, Sean, how are things with Alicia?" The question caught me off guard. "Alicia? Why are you asking about my wife right now?" Matthew leaned back in his chair, a thoughtful look on his face. "Your story about the car got me thinking. You see, people are fascinating creatures. We have this tendency to get used to things, even the most precious ones in our lives. And when we do, we often lose sight of their true value." I nodded slowly, not quite sure where he was going with this. Matthew continued, his voice taking on a philosophical tone. "It's almost like an instinct we can't control. We get comfortable, complacent even. And before we know it, the things that once thrilled us become ordinary." He paused, letting his words sink in. "You know, Sean, someday you might even get tired of that Miura. When that day comes, I've been thinking, I might just pass it on to you." My eyes widened in disbelief. "Are you serious, Matthew? But why?" A smile played at the corners of his mouth. "I am serious, but there's a condition. If you accept the proposal I'm about to make, I'll not only overlook this accident, but also promise you the car in the future." I leaned forward, curiosity piqued. "What kind of proposal?" Matthew chuckled, seeing my eagerness. "Don't look so nervous. It's just, well, you and Alicia have been married for quite some time now, right?" 12 years, I confirmed, still puzzled by the direction of our conversation. "Ah, 12 years. That's wonderful. Melissa and I are coming up on our 25th soon." He paused, his expression turning more serious. "So, tell me honestly, how are things between you two? Is the spark still there?" I hesitated, caught off guard by the personal nature of the question. "Well, it's not bad, Peresi, but I suppose we have grown a bit distant lately." Matthew nodded knowingly. "Exactly my point. It's easy to fall into a routine, to let the excitement fade. But here's the thing, Sean. Sometimes, to reignite that spark, you need to shake things up a bit." I raised an eyebrow, intrigued despite myself. "What are you suggesting?" "Next week, Melissa and I are heading up to our cabin by Lake Tahoe. Why don't you and Alicia join us?" His eyes twinkled with mischief. "And while we're there, how about we try something a little unconventional? A spouse swap, just for one night. That's my condition." I felt my jaw drop. "You mean, you and Alicia?" Matthew nodded, his expression a mix of seriousness and excitement. "Exactly. Sometimes, a little novelty is what keeps a relationship fresh. It's a secret to lasting passion, Sean." As the implications of his words sank in, I felt a whirlwind of emotions. Jealousy, shock, and surprisingly, a flicker of curiosity. The thought of Alicia with another man was jarring, but there was also an undeniable intrigue. Could this unconventional approach actually breathe new life into our marriage? And what about the potential impact on my career? I need to talk to Alicia about this," I stammered, my mind reeling. Matthew nodded understandingly. "Of course. Take your time, think it over. But remember, Sean, sometimes the most rewarding experiences come from stepping out of our comfort zones." As I left Matthew's office, his proposal echoed in my mind. Little did I know that this conversation would be the catalyst for a series of events that would challenge everything I thought I knew about love, loyalty, and the complexities of human desire. That evening, I broached the subject with Alicia. Her initial reaction was exactly as I'd expected, a mix of shock and indignation. "Absolutely not," she exclaimed, her eyes wide with disbelief. "How could you even consider such a thing?" But as the night wore on, and we delved deeper into the state of our marriage, the potential impact on my career, and our long-standing relationship with Matthew and Melissa, I saw Alicia's resolve begin to waver. We talked for hours, our conversation touching on aspects of our relationship we hadn't discussed in years. As the first light of dawn began to creep through our bedroom window, Alicia turned to me, her expression a complex mixture of determination and vulnerability. "All right," she said softly. "For our future, for you, I'll do it." I wasn't sure if this was a test of our relationship or the beginning of a new chapter. Perhaps, I realized, Alicia too felt a flicker of curiosity about what this experience might bring. With a mixture of anticipation and apprehension, I called Matthew the next day to confirm our participation. As I spoke with him, I could hear Melissa's voice in the background, her tone light and excited. It seemed she was fully on board with the idea. The day of the trip arrived all too quickly. As Alicia and I drove to the designated rest stop to meet Matthew and Melissa, a palpable tension filled the car. We were both lost in our thoughts, contemplating the night ahead. As we pulled into the rest stop, I saw Matthew's sleek black SUV already parked. My heart rate quickened as we approached. Matthew and Melissa emerged from their vehicle, both looking relaxed and cheerful. Melissa was the first to greet us, her warm smile instantly putting us at ease. "Hello, Sean. Alicia. It's been too long. How have you both been?" As she spoke, I couldn't help but notice her graceful figure. Her sundress hugged her curves in all the right places, reminding me of a classical statue come to life. She approached Alicia, taking her hands in a gesture of friendship. "Thank you so much for coming," Melissa said, her voice sincere. "I know my husband's suggestion was unconventional, to say the least. I really appreciate you both being open to this." Alicia managed a small smile, though I could see she was still nervous. "Thank you for having us," she replied, her voice slightly shaky. Melissa, ever perceptive, noticed our tension. With a light chuckle, she said, "Oh, you both look so serious. Relax, we're all friends here." Her laughter was infectious, and soon we all found ourselves joining in, the ice finally beginning to break. Matthew approached then, his confident stride unchanged. "Sorry to keep you waiting," he said, clapping me on the shoulder. He turned to Alicia, his smile warm and reassuring. "Alicia, it's wonderful to see you again. Thank you, as always, for letting me borrow your husband for work." Alicia bowed slightly, her manners impeccable as always. "It's been a while, Matthew. Thank you for always taking care of Sean." Matthew waved off the formality with a grin. "Let's leave the niceties for another time, shall we? We're all friends here. Now, shall we get going? Follow me. I know a scenic route to the cabin." As we headed back to our respective cars, Melissa leaned in close to Alicia, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Take good care of my husband, won't you?" Then, turning to me with a playful wink, she added, "I'm looking forward to tonight, Sean." We set off, following Matthew's SUV along winding mountain roads. About 30 minutes later, we arrived at their secluded cabin. The setting was breathtaking. Tall pines surrounded the property, and beyond them, the crystal-clear waters of Lake Tahoe sparkled in the late afternoon sun. The majestic Sierra Nevada mountains provided a stunning backdrop. The evening passed in a blur of good food, flowing wine, and surprisingly easy conversation. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in brilliant hues of orange and pink, I felt the atmosphere shift. The casual friendliness of earlier was slowly being replaced by a charged anticipation. As darkness fell, Matthew stood up, extending his hand to Alicia. "Shall we?" he asked, his voice low and intimate. Alicia hesitated for a moment, her eyes meeting mine. I gave her a small nod, and she took Matthew's hand, allowing him to lead her upstairs. I watched them go, a confusing mix of emotions swirling within me. Jealousy, yes, but also an unexpected thrill of excitement. The reality of what was about to happen hit me like a physical force. Left alone with Melissa, I felt my body tense up. She must have noticed my discomfort because she smiled softly, her eyes twinkling in the low light. "Sean, are you okay? You look quite adorable when you're nervous." Her words, combined with the effects of the wine and the charged atmosphere, made Melissa seem even more alluring. Yet, I couldn't help but let my mind wander upstairs, wondering what Alicia was experiencing. Suddenly, a faint creak echoed from above, the unmistakable sound of a bed. "Oh my," Melissa whispered, her breath warm against my ear as she pressed her body against my back. "Sounds like they've started." And quite enthusiastically, I might add. The thought of Alicia surrendering herself to another man sent a jolt through me, a potent cocktail of jealousy, arousal, and something I couldn't quite name. The distant sounds from upstairs made everything feel surreal, yet undeniably real. Melissa, ever perceptive, must have sensed my internal struggle. Her voice was soft, almost hypnotic as she murmured, "Let's enjoy ourselves too, Sean. That's what tonight is all about, isn't it?" As she pressed herself against me, I felt the warmth of her body seep into mine. In that moment, something inside me snapped. All the emotions I'd been holding back, the curiosity, the desire, the forbidden thrill of this situation, came rushing to the surface. My jealousy and confusion seemed to evaporate like smoke, replaced by an overwhelming need to lose myself in the moment. I pulled Melissa into my arms, holding her tightly right there in the living room. Her scent, a delicate blend of jasmine and vanilla, tickled my senses, clouding my mind even further. The curve of her waist and hips was perfectly sculpted, like the work of an artist who had painstakingly carved out every detail. Her skin was smooth and warm under my touch, sending shivers down my spine. I pressed my lips gently across every inch of her, savoring her taste, the softness of her skin, and the way she trembled under my touch. My fingers traced the contours of her body, memorizing every curve and dip. Finally, with a shared gasp of anticipation, I slipped into her depths, feeling the heat of her envelop me completely. "Yes, just like that." Melissa's voice was a sweet, teasing whisper, coaxing me on, her breath hot against my ear, her nails lightly scratching down my back. With her in my arms, our bodies intertwined, the heat between us rising with each movement. We made love intensely, again and again, each time exploring new ways to please each other. Her voice echoed through the room, a symphony of pleasure that spurred me on. Her body was different from my wife's, a new landscape to discover. Melissa's responses were immediate and passionate, her body an instrument I was learning to play. With every touch, her body shivered as if charged by an electric current, her back arching, her toes curling. Her gaze grew deeper, more intense, pupils dilated with desire. Her breathing grew heavier, punctuated by soft moans and gasps that drove me into a deeper frenzy, pulling me into a whirlpool of desire. It was a sweetness and a thrill I hadn't felt in a long time, a rediscovery of passion I thought I'd lost. At one point, I thought I heard a faint voice from upstairs, a soft, "Wait a second," from Alicia. For a brief moment, my heart wavered, guilt threatening to break through the haze of pleasure. But then Melissa pulled me back to the present, her voice filling the room, drowning out the echo of Alicia's. Her lips found mine in a searing kiss, banishing all thoughts but her. On the couch, Melissa twisted her body like a wild creature, eagerly taking me in. Her movements were fluid and graceful, yet urgent with need. Her hips rolled against mine, setting a rhythm that had us both gasping for air. Her movements stoked my desire even more, and I held her with an even greater intensity, my hands gripping her hips, guiding her motions. Each embrace stripped away my hesitation and uncertainty until all I could focus on was her, the softness of her skin, the warmth of her breath, the intoxicating scent of her arousal. The stillness of the living room was replaced with the heat of our bodies, the sound of skin against skin, and breathless moans of pleasure, as the charged atmosphere thickened with every passing moment. The next morning, I woke up to see Melissa's delicate face beside me, her features soft in the early morning light. As I processed the events of the previous night, a mix of guilt and excitement coursing through me, Melissa opened her eyes and smiled, her gaze still heavy with the intimacy we'd shared. "Good morning, Sean," she purred, stretching languidly beside me. "Last night was amazing. Just like you are at work. You were so attentive." She laughed playfully, her fingers tracing patterns on my chest. "Alicia's a lucky woman. Let's do this again sometime." Her words sent a thrill through me, even as a pang of guilt twisted in my gut. After she headed to the shower, I took my turn to wash away the complicated emotions of the night. The hot water cascaded over me, but it couldn't wash away the memories of Melissa's touch, her taste, her scent. Fresh and dressed, I joined everyone in the living room, where we all behaved as if nothing unusual had happened, though the air was thick with unspoken tension. "Good morning," I greeted the group, my voice slightly hoarse. Alicia gave me a soft smile, saying, "Good morning," in return. I couldn't help but feel that her smile had a new warmth, a reminder of the woman I'd fallen in love with. Yet, there was something in her eyes, a mix of vulnerability and determination, that made my heart ache with a combination of love and guilt. We said our goodbyes and headed home, the car ride filled with a charged silence. As I drove, memories of last night echoed in my mind, a kaleidoscope of sensations and emotions. But it was Alicia's voice from upstairs that kept replaying, that soft, uncertain, "Wait a second." It stirred something primal in me. I felt a surge of possessiveness, a burning desire to reclaim her as mine alone, to erase the touch of another man from her skin with my own caresses. As soon as we got home, I pulled Alicia into my arms with an intensity one hadn't felt in years. The warmth of her body against mine sent electricity coursing through my veins. I needed to hold her, to remind both of us of our unbreakable bond. It wasn't just jealousy driving me. It was a fierce, primal desire to envelop her in my love, to erase any lingering thoughts of another man's touch. Alicia responded with equal passion, her actions uncharacteristically bold and urgent. Her fingers tangled in my hair, pulling me closer as if she couldn't bear any distance between us. It was as if she, too, was hungry for this renewed connection, and I felt our bond deepen in that moment. The air around us crackled with tension and desire. "I've been waiting for this," she whispered, her voice soft but intense, her breath hot against my ear. A shiver ran down my spine, and a rush of warmth spread through me. Holding her, feeling the curve of her body perfectly aligned with mine, I knew she wanted this as much as I did. In that moment, I wanted to protect her, to cherish her, to worship every inch of her body, forever. As we stumbled towards the bedroom, clothes falling away in our wake, I couldn't help but marvel at the way Alicia moved. There was a newfound confidence in her steps, a sensuality that hadn't been there before. It both thrilled and unnerved me, knowing that our experience with Matthew and Melissa had awakened something in her. But at the same time, as we fell onto the bed in a tangle of limbs and heated kisses, I realized that this experience with Melissa had taught me something profound. Sometimes, breaking routine and seeking new experiences can strengthen a relationship in ways you never expected. Matthew's words about new stimulation being the key to a lasting relationship echoed in my mind, taking on new meaning as Alicia's lips traced a burning path down my neck. Alicia, too, seemed to understand this truth. There was a new fire in her eyes, a determination to explore and push boundaries that I had never seen before. As we made love with an intensity that left us both breathless and trembling, I felt our connection deepen, evolving into something richer and more complex than it had ever been. The passion we shared that night was proof enough of our renewed bond. Every touch, every kiss, every moan was a reaffirmation of our love and commitment to each other. As we lay tangled in the sheets afterward, our bodies cooling but our hearts still racing, I felt a sense of peace and contentment wash over me. The next morning, as sunlight streamed through our bedroom window, I called Matthew to thank him for the Lake Tahoe experience. My voice was still husky from the night before, and I could hear the knowing smile in Matthew's tone as he answered. I told him that if they ever planned another trip, Alicia and I would love to join. This experience had brought us closer than ever, igniting a spark in our relationship that I never knew was missing. For that unexpected gift, I was profoundly grateful. As I hung up the phone, Alicia stirred beside me, her eyes fluttering open. The love and trust one saw reflected in her gaze reaffirmed my decision. We had taken a risk, stepped out of our comfort zone, and emerged stronger for it. Whatever challenges lay ahead, I knew we would face them together, our bond now forged in the fires of passion and understanding.